you. I love the timing that this is coming out. I was just reading some new stuff about Conor McGregor. He's over in Ireland and getting ready to sponsor the Katie Taylor fight, and he's working with that over in Ireland. So, for the course of for the documentary, what is the essential message of Conor McGregor that you hope that this documentary conveys to fans of his, people who may not be fans of his, general fans of MMA and the world at large?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that, I had this has gone on for a couple of years. We started really filming in 2019. The thing I saw over and over again is Connor's ability to pick himself up, and not just literally, off the mat. There were a couple losses, over the course of the last few years, but I'd say figuratively, this guy has the most incredible will and resilience than anyone I've ever been around. And, I think that is inspiring. You don't have to be a fighter or a fight fan to appreciate that. And that's sort of the goal. Obviously, he has incumbent audience that I think people will love because there's a lot of inside access and just a lot of different sides to him. But I think the goal for us is always to get beyond that and to say, to show a person who's come from some pretty incredible circumstances to build himself into one of the certainly the biggest icon in sport, but even beyond the sport in the world. And I think that sense of resilience, that ability to always push more and more to outwork everyone is quite inspiring. And so I hope people take that message from it.
Something I've always found intriguing about him. I work in the boxing space as well, and even in defeat after an MMA loss, or he had to fight with Mayweather, or anything he does, he is very humble in defeat, and he's very, very clear of where he think his shortcoming, his failures. Is that aspect of his personality something that spent a lot of time on in the documentary, showing that he is a gracious fighter even in defeat, because his reputation suggests
Yeah.
he might not be?
No, I love that about him. He's the one who says, first of all, you don't get into this sport if you're afraid of losing, or losing is disappointing. And we were with him a few times, during some of these losses. But he's a tactician. He's a really smart fighter. So you see him in the aftermath, not just being humble and being gracious in defeat, but also like doing the math in his head. It's like you said, okay, what did I do wrong? How can I get better? And with Conor, there's always like this, and he generates a lot of it, like the circus around him. But it's also interesting because, like after the Khabib fight, for example, like when there's just tons of chaos, or in the octagon, outside the octagon, we're with him in the locker room afterwards, and everyone else is like, kind of distracted by everything that happened, and he's just processing. He's like, first of all, I lost. That's that. But it's also like you can just see in him, he's kind of like figuring out like, okay, what am I going to learn from this? How am I going to come back from this? What do I need to do better? And again, I found that really like interesting, but also inspiring.
Is he the stabilizing force within his camp? Like you said, some of the circus is self-created, but he has a commitment to his family. He is a person who's kept a lot of the same people around him his entire life. I know he has a crew of men that he grew up with, boys. Is he the stabilizing factor amidst the storm?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty interesting to call Connor such a stabilizing force, because I think when you watch him, he's just a never-ending showman. But it's by design. I mean, that's why he's become such a huge phenomena, and he's so valuable to the UFC, and he's become so rich and famous and all of that. But yes, at the end of the day, he's a fighter. He does the work. He's very demanding of the team around him. But I think, he's the type of person, and I've been around these people before, he's the captain of the ship. And when the captain is like willing to outwork everybody, that's inspiring, and everyone else gets on board. And so you feel that, especially in camp leading up to a fight. There's just this all in intensity. I've never been around Connor, around these fights where he's like, what, guys, let's cut this training session short. I think I accomplished everything I needed to do. It's quite the opposite. You're told like prepare for a 2 hour sparring session, like 4 hours later, 6 hours later, like, okay, when is this going to end? That's that's Conor. He's willing to do the work.
Mhm. As a documentarian, that takes a level of discipline to capture the images, to bring them all together in a way for us, the audience, to enjoy. Spending time with a disciplined person like Conor McGregor and his approach to sport, what's something that you learned from him of just general life knowledge that you feel you can apply to your journey as a creator, as a filmmaker, or just some type of nexus that
Yeah.
you guys have?
Look, we all deal with disappointment. We call the business I'm in, we call it unscripted television. Life is unscripted. There are things that you plan for and then they don't go according to plan. And you have to either some people fold and can't deal with it and retreat, or you adjust and you figure it out. You build the team and you keep going. And I think that's the thing about him. You see it in the opening scene of the docu-series. It's not even 24 hours after, pretty devastating fight where his leg literally snaps in front of the entire world. He's in the hospital and he's trying to figure out, like, okay, what is it going to take for me to come back from this? What do I need to do? And he knows he has to do a lot of work. He's willing to do the work, but it's just this resilience, this willfulness, that is quite inspiring. And again, you don't have to be a fighter, you don't have to be an athlete to take something away from that, because I think it's the quality we all teach our kids. You got to figure it out, how to pick yourself up and keep going. And Conor's one of the best in the world at it.
Did I hear you right and say you guys were right there on the leg break night? Ooh, how
Yeah.
close were you to the octagon when I watched that fight live and I was
Yeah, no, we were pretty close. And, like I was kind of in the locker room. It happened pretty fast in the fight, so I was in the locker room, went out and literally was, like just outside the ring. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty gruesome. But it's so the drama you look for as a filmmaker is certainly something we did not hope for nor anticipate. But to your point, you adjust and you go, and it's certainly, like, I think it was the most dramatic moment, but it gave us like this real engine for the story.
that's awesome. Well, he joins Anderson Silva in a very elite group who is also very elite. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time. Have a wonderful premiere. I appreciate you speaking with me.
Thank you.
Take care.